What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. Just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, so as far as Tesla's going, as you can see, there's a very evident downtrend that's been established. Tesla tried to bounce when we opened, as we tend to see high volatility that comes out, not to mention more volume. But then once we hit our 20 EMA just under 400, Tesla got another rejection. SPY is also rejecting. We're seeing a lot of weakness right now in the markets after the data that just came out. And this is what's causing Tesla to dip despite some bullish news. So I want to talk about what this news is, and then I'm going to break down some pictures of what the Model Y Juniper is looking like, and I'll talk about the charts after that. So the first thing is that I already went over this data. I'm just going to repeat this real quick. Unemployment was decent at 4.1% below expectations, but non-farm payrolls was at 256,000. This was above expectations. Now, it could be leading the reason why the market is down is because we had Bowman from the Fed yesterday come out, and she said that the Fed is going to be in a very, very critical place as they may not be cutting rates for a while because of the possibility of inflation going back up. So that's what initially started things off, especially as the labor market is looking a little bit decent. This does still lead to some concerns about inflation, and that's why the Fed is like less incentivized to cut even more. So that's the reason why for the shorter term, we might just see the Fed keep rates the same for a longer period of time. And the market's reacting a little bit more negatively to that. But then we also had this data right over here. So we had the data from Michigan, and right now the 5-year inflationary expectations up to about 3.3%. That's above expectations. And we also had the current conditions reports close to expectations. And then last but not least, the overall inflationary expectations is still at 3.3%. This is for the short term as well for the month of January. That's above expectations as well. So the longer term and short term expectations for inflation did go up a little bit, especially because of some of the things that the Fed was saying even after the FOMC minutes. So as things are progressing right now, there is a fear of higher inflation, and that is leading to once again, some fears for the markets. That's when the market's seeing more volatility and more downside from here. The last thing I want to talk about is this. I have some pictures of what the Tesla Model Y Juniper is going to look like. Once again, this is being released in China and some countries in the Asian Pacific. It's not necessarily in the US quite yet or Europe, but it will eventually come out. In China, this should be starting deliveries as soon as March, so very, very good news, at least for now. It's not really a surprise. We knew this was going to come out eventually. We were talking about this many, many times before. But these are some very, very nice pictures of what it looks like. It has a very, very nice interior, very, very nice looking, sleek design with cool looking features. I think the headlights look very, very cool as well. And there's a lot of nice features with it. There's very, very, very nice improvements to the variants, such as like the ranges and factors like that. And I think that the rear looks very beautiful and it's a very, very nice looking model. So I think it looks very cool. It's going to help bring those sales back up. It has cool rims and etc. So very, very awesome stuff. But unfortunately, despite the fact that this came out and despite the fact that that's making headlines, it's not really enough to help Tesla kind of offsets the downside that's coming to the broader markets. So the whole market's coming down, and that's dragging Tesla down. Inflationary fears and the Fed's policies will affect Tesla as well, especially their sales for the more immediate term. So as far as Tesla goes, we're looking at the support right over here, very close to this 387.5 area. If that does not hold, we're looking for essentially 385. And if that fails us, we could be dipping to where this imbalance is taking us down to the very low 380s. And if we lose those, I think there's going to be a risk of us retesting these lows and getting very close to about the 370 area. This is close to our 200 EMA. So overall, Tesla's on a downtrend, and there is still some weakness in this market. To turn back up, you want to see Tesla reclaim not only 395, but you want to get back up of 399.89 at the very least. Otherwise, we favor more downside, and we could be dipping towards 385 all over again or below. So Tesla does look a little bit more bearish. I say that not just because of Tesla, but also because of SPY and the others. If you look at SPY, it's not looking too good for bulls because there's a very clear head and shoulders. We have a left shoulder here, a head in the the right shoulder, and I also want to call out the fact that there's a support around this 578 zone. We'll watch and see if that holds. But for now, we're doing not the best of jobs at holding 580, and we still favor us testing those lows all over again. If we lose those lows, we're going to be dumping closer to the lower 570 area and eventually into the 560s for this head and shoulders to pan out. So watch 580's resistance, and then above that we have 582.5 and 585. If we don't hold 578, we're going to be looking for a dump towards the low that we saw from before, and then there's going to be a risk of us dumping all the way down to the 574 area if we end up losing support. So keep that in mind. Watch 578s and then 574 supports. We do look more bearish right now. The bears have the edge. They're a lot stronger, and so far they are winning. So if you look at ES, we have a very similar setup. We have a left shoulder, a head, and then the right shoulder. We'll have to see if we could hold 58.60. If not, we're going to be looking for a move all the way down towards 58.50 or below. We have to try to get back above 58.80 to turn back up. Otherwise, we favor more downside for lower levels. 58.50 and then eventually lower levels towards like 58.25 are going to be our targets. We still look a bit more bearish looking at the trends. For Nvda, we got this huge rejection right over here. I want to mention that Nvidia is showing some weakness because we're not holding above 138. In fact, we're at 135, which is what I warned you guys about in case we failed. So we're going to be looking at the main support right here around this 133 area. If that fails us, we could be dipping all the way down to 128. And we have to try to reclaim 138 to turn back up. Otherwise, we favor 133 or below. So just keep that in mind. There's going to be a risk of some downside. We're on a downtrend on Bitcoin. We're making lower highs right here. We have to try to hold above 94,800. Otherwise, we favor a move lower towards 92,250. For Tesla, like I said before, we're looking a little bit weaker, so please be careful. I forgot to mention one more thing about Tesla. Let me just say that real quick. We have to try to hold this support right here where this trend line is. If we don't hold this, there's going to be a risk of more downside. So far, we're struggling to hold this key support in the 390 area. So once again, we do favor downside for 385 or below. Just wanted to call out that trend line. I forgot to mention that. NQ looks a bit more bearish. We called out how it could be dipping to 21,000 or below, and this could be dipping all the way down to 21,800 if that fails us. For the QQQ, same thing. We're on a bit of a downtrend. We have to try to get back above 507. If not, we're going to be favoring a move back down towards 502 or below, down to 500. So I see some weakness on the triple Q as well. Weakness perpetuates. Apple did not hold 240, so we dumped to 238. I said if that failed, let's look for 235. Actually, we're below that, so Apple's showing a lot of weakness right here. We got to try to hold around this 233.5 area. Otherwise, we could be continuing to fall back down to 230 flat. For now, it looks a bit more bearish. We had that rising wedge, which led to a big move to the downside. So for now, Apple is still falling. So unfortunately, it favors bears. For the IWM Russell 2000, we called out 215, 212 as our targets. Look for 215 as our next support. We're going to likely dip towards that or below. For coin, we came down to fill the gap. We did call out this gap fill around 247. We did come down to do that. Then we saw some buyers defend it at that level. We have to try to get back above 265 to turn back up. If we can't achieve that, there's still going to be a risk of us dipping to 250 all over again. Amazon's looking a bit more bearish. We're on a downtrend. We have to try to hold at least 218. Otherwise, we could be dipping to closer to 215 or below. So I do see a risk of this dipping lower. I think there's going to be a test of 216, then the 215s below that. For a few more, we also happen to have Meta. Meta is also kind of flat right here. We have this resistance to watch for around 622, and we have support around 607. We're stuck in the middle, going back and forth. We'll be watching 611 and 607 as our supports, and we have 620 as our resistance. We're going to likely continue to shuffle in this range, and we'll have to see which way we end up breaking for the much larger move. So if we break 625, we turn back up. And if we lose 607, we turn bearish. Otherwise, Meta is just range bound. It is showing some strength compared to the market. There's a potential accumulation structure here, but just know that it's just shuffling for now. It's shuffling. It would have broken out a lot more if the market balanced, but because the market's weak, Meta is just barely holding up. So there's still some strength, but simultaneously it's just shuffling. For Microsoft, we could be dipping lower towards the 410 area. We're going to be watching to see if 415 holds. Otherwise, it could be dumping a lot more. Google's also looking weak. We're making lower highs here. We got to try to get back above 195. Otherwise, we favor move back down towards 190. So just keep that in mind as we look a little bit more bearish. For now, we do favor downside, so just keep that in mind. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. The market is showing weakness, so is Tesla. We want to see Tesla get back above at least 399. Otherwise, we favor more downside. Make sure you watch 385 and different levels on Tesla. Another important thing is this trend line right here, which is very close to 390. We got to get back into the 390s to bounce. Otherwise, this favors more downside. So for now, the bears have a bigger edge. Unfortunately, there's things outside of Tesla's control. Tesla had a lot of good news for the share price that came out for itself, but then that's not enough for it because the broader markets are coming down and there's a lot of fear about inflation coming back up. So that's what's affecting the market right now, alongside what the Fed has been announcing. We just had Bowman once again make very important announcements about how the Fed may have to continue to keep rates the same, not really cut as much for the short term and the more medium term. But anyways, that's it for my video. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'll be back in a couple of hours for another update, and peace out.